Coming up on my next podcast is my interview with Nate Morris, businessman running for Senate here in the state of Kentucky. I asked him the hard questions in this interview. I asked him if he was a fake Nate of the woke and the DEI. You'll hear his answer right here on today's podcast. For over 40 years, I've preached the Bible as a pastor across America and around the world. I've led in the work of the local church. I've been actively engaged in the political process in both our state and nation. The purpose of the church is to stand. I've stood alongside veterans and first responders. My heartbeat is revival, and I refuse to sit on the sidelines. So buckle up and let's tackle the issues, challenges, and opportunities facing your family and mine head on. This morning, I'm interviewing Nate Morris, Kentucky businessman running for the United States Senate from here in the state of Kentucky. As you know, that seat has been held since 1985 by Mitch McConnell, and for the first time in 40 years, it is what we would call an open seat. There have been a few challengers through the years, but nobody serious or close, and now the seat is open. It is important. It is very important that we understand who we elect next is important to our state. It's important to our nation, not just right now. While President Trump is the president, we're excited about what's going on, but he's only going to be president for 4 years, and almost one of those is already gone. And whoever the senator is after President Trump is going to be very important. Typically, the people who hold these seats, they hold them for a long time, and it's very difficult. In fact, it's almost impossible to unseat someone who has been elected already. There is a certain kind of power. There's a certain level that it's hard to defeat an incumbent. So it is important, and I hope that you will help me to let folks know how important this race is. And so I'm going to interview Nate Morris, and I'm going to ask him why he's running. I'm going to ask him those questions that you've been sending me. Was he in fact woke and supportive of DEI when he was running the Rubicon Company? What kind of answer does he give in private? What kind of answer does he give in public? We're going to ask him about that. Many of you know that I have endorsed Nate Morris in his run for Senate, and I'll tell you why I have. I did interview all three candidates. They all came to my office, and I spent some time with each of them. But as I began to study who their friends were, and I also looked to see who their enemies were. An old friend of mine, Vietnam Colonel Ron Ray, used to tell me, make sure you see who a person's enemies are to find out what kind of person they are. So here's what I learned about those who supported Nate Morris for Senate that got my attention. First of all, Donald Trump Jr. allowed him to announce his candidacy on his podcast. That's pretty big. As you know, Donald Trump Jr. is very close to his father. And so that was big. That got my attention. I asked Nate, I said, why did you run? Who recruited you to run? And what I wanted to know, are you an establishment candidate or are you your own candidate? I found out because of his friendship and the influence of our Vice President, J.D. Vance. That was the first to approach him to ask him to run. So that's another person close to the president that got my attention. And then in August of this year, Charlie Kirk came to Kentucky and publicly supported Nate Morris for Senate. And so when I saw all those things come in line, and many things since, I said, this is the man that we need, not only for our state, but for our nation. So with that, I want to welcome Nate Morris. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you, Pastor. It's great to be with you.
Your story is quite amazing, and I've enjoyed learning about you. You are from Kentucky. Kentucky's your home.
That's right. Well, I'm so proud, and I know you and I have talked about this I'm a ninth generation Kentuckian, and my grandparents, the Morrises, we come from the mountains originally, from Morgan County.
Good place to be for.
That's right, and I'm very proud of that. You know, mountain people are tough. You know,
Yeah.
we came over the Cumberland Gap. We forged our own way, and we know how to fight. And that's something that was instilled in me very, very early in my life. That as Kentuckians, we fight for a great way of life. I was raised by a single mother, so my dad left when I was very young. Put us in a tough spot. My dad had a lot of challenges, classic deadbeat dad issues. Got locked up for not paying child support. My mom was on food stamps at one point. But my grandparents really came in and helped us. And my grandmother was wonderful. And my granddad ran a local union, the United Auto Workers. And my family, we built cars. You know, 19 of my family members worked in an auto plant.
Wow.
And
What kind of car?
well, F-150s.
Hey, there's another good reason that this man would be a good senator for Kentucky. He's a Ford man.
You know, the Expedition, the Navigator. At one point, it was the Ranger. It was the Explorer. I mean, but we're Ford people, and I have owned a Chevy or two, but very proud of when I see those trucks and when I see those cars rolling up and down the road. I think about my family who helped build them. And, you know, my grandfather, you know, kind of brought me up in a political environment too. You know, I saw the impact that he had when he would fight for his workers for better health care or to get more opportunity. His workers would come to him for help. And so that left a big impact on me of service as well. But, you know, my mother, she was so wonderful. I mean, she used to tell me as a kid, you know, we may not have a lot of money, but it's free to think big. And if you're going to be thinking, you might as well be thinking as big as you can.
Yeah.
And my mother taught me to pray, and she'd always remind me that I named you Nathaniel because it means a gift of God in Hebrew, and
Wow.
and it's from the Bible. So that was something that stuck with me and was down in my bones. And grew up, I was a pretty good football player. I thought football would be a ticket for me, and ended up getting hurt, broke my neck, and got really serious about school and started hitting the books and ended up getting academic scholarships to go to school at George Washington University, at Princeton and Oxford. And I got a world-class education. And, you know, after that, I started thinking about, you know, what's next. And, you know, entrepreneurs ask me all the time, you know, what inspired you to become a business guy? And I said, you know, I was broke. I said, that's a powerful place to be.
It is.
It's a powerful place to be.
Now, you're a successful businessman today. How old were you when you started? How much money did you have when you started?
It's at the ripe old age of 28.
Wow.
I started my company, and you know, being broke, you get very creative. I eBayed just about everything I had. You know, I had everything from stuff from when I was a kid to stuff I just didn't need. It's amazing the stuff that you find that you just don't need, that there's money laying around in some places. And we stitched together a working pilot of our business and ended up getting a local customer, Papa John's. And we were in the waste and recycling business. And a lot of people say,
So the business you started was picking up trash.
that's right. That's right. And, you know, Pastor, you know, this is not the easiest business to break into, you know, tough people. And this is usually a mafia business all over the country.
Right.
And very high barriers to entry. And a lot of people don't know this, but Bill Gates is one of the biggest garbage men in the world. He owns more garbage stock than anybody. So when you get into an industry like the waste management space, you're competing against the biggest money, the most powerful lawyers, accountants. And we were young enough, and I think naive enough, to think we could take him head on and take his companies head on. And ended up getting off to a good start with this Papa John's contract, and ended up raising money off of that working pilot. And we were off to the races after that. So
age 28, you're starting business, $10,000.
yeah.
So walk us through the next 12, 15, 20 years. The company eventually went public.
Yeah, that's right. We ended up taking a lot of the big contracts away from Bill Gates's companies. So I was so proud of that. We managed every Walmart, every Dollar General, every Apple, Starbucks. And these are tough accounts to manage. We grew to all 50 states, 20 countries. And that $10,000 investment ended up growing into a $700 million revenue company.
Wow.
We did a lot of acquisitions, so we brought on a lot of new companies. I was really proud that we paid for everybody's health care, 100%. So that's one of the things I got from growing up in a union household. We tried to take care of our people. And I knew if we took care of them, they were going to take care of our customers and take care of the business. And got named Great Places to Work 5 years in a row, and was named one of the most innovative companies in the world.
So you eventually sold the company. You're not the owner of the company now.
I've been out as CEO over 3 years.
Okay, so you've been out 3 years now. 2019, 2020, we started hearing a word named woke and DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and they all sound good. But then when you got into that, you realized that woke is to ignore history, forget history, and take everyone who claims that something special. For example, they started pushing this transgender idea. And it's an interesting thing to me because transgender boys want to be girls, girls want to be boys. For the most part, they still recognize they're just two genders. And then companies started hiring people and making it a requirement to hire a percentage of woke or DEI people. And so we faced all of that. And we started, when you first announced that you were going to run, we started getting these postcards and text messages saying, that's fake Nate. Nate is woke and Nate is DEI. Was Rubicon woke and DEI?
Absolutely not. And, it's so funny when my friends say, have you seen this? They're like, you're like the least woke person I've ever seen in my life. Like, in fact, it was just the opposite. Pastor, as you know, corporate America is a tough place. If you're a believer, if you're conservative, if you have right-leaning values, it was a tough place to be at that time. I mean, I got called a racist because I wanted to celebrate Columbus Day instead of Indigenous Peoples Day.
Wow.
I wouldn't give to George Floyd's memorial. I got called a racist for that. So I've seen this stuff in the boardroom. But what also happened is you have to think about what Joe Biden did and Bidenomics did. Part of Bidenomics was they were driving this woke agenda through things like the Securities and Exchange Commission. So the body that regulates public companies, they required certain things or you were breaking the law. And I think that has no place. DEI, all the woke stuff, that's all a scam. That's a scam to push liberal ideology through corporate America onto average citizens. And one of the first things that I did when I got out of my company was invest in Strive, which is the anti-woke investment platform that Vivek Ramaswamy started.
Yeah.
So I've known Vivek for a while. Vivek endorsed me. And he is the leading force of fighting back against woke ideology in corporate America. He was the first one. He wrote Woke Inc.
Yeah, I read his book,
Yeah.
Woke Inc.
Yeah. And the first thing I said to Vivek is I said, look, I've seen this stuff firsthand. We got to beat this back. And that was the first thing I did when I left my company, is say, we got to fight this head on, because it was gonna kill business, kill meritocracy in our country. And it has no place in corporate America or society.
So you have been a capitalist from the beginning.
That's right. And businesses have got to get back to making money and creating jobs.
Yeah.
I think you and I have talked about this before. I think if people have a job, that solves a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And it gets them back into church. It gets them back into the community. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think we need more outsiders in government, people that don't need the job and people that are business people. And I think President Trump's proved that.
I think what you said is very important, people getting jobs, but that's easy to say. What can a senator from Kentucky do to help folks in, and when I think of Kentucky, I think of Southeast Kentucky, I think of Central Kentucky, Northern Kentucky, and Western Kentucky. And the 4 different areas that are all different, and it's easier to find jobs here in Central Kentucky. What can a senator do to help Kentuckians find jobs? How can we create jobs?
I think it starts with leadership. Everything's about leadership at that level. And, Pastor, we had a very sad situation here in Kentucky. We lost Kentucky Fried Chicken. Can you believe that? Kentucky Fried Chicken is now in Texas. And nobody picked up the phone.
Did you know that? Did you folks know that are watching? And you folks, we have a live audience here that we're recording in front of. How many of you knew Kentucky Fried Chicken moved? I mean, what a heartbreak. That almost seems sacrilegious, the Kentucky Fried Chicken. I've been around the world. I was in Mexico the other day, and there were 2 Kentucky Fried Chickens in Irapuato. What caused Kentucky Fried Chicken to leave the state? They wouldn't want to, you wouldn't think.
Absolutely not. I mean, I think the Colonel's rolling over in his grave. I
Yeah.
mean, this is a huge blow to Kentuckians, and I share this a lot. I can't talk to a factory worker, an entrepreneur, a single mother who's trying to make it and say, we got a good economy here if we can't keep Kentucky Fried Chicken in our backyard.
Yeah.
That's what we're known for all over the world. Anywhere I did business around the world, people would always say Kentucky Fried Chicken. That's what we're known for.
Sure.
And what disappointed me and enraged me really is that, we have people that have been in government a long time, had a lot of power, and nobody picked up the phone to say, let's work out a deal. Let's work out a situation
Yeah.
where we can keep you guys here in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And figure something out. And I think it comes down to leadership. And I think it comes down to having people in those leadership roles that have met a payroll, that have signed the front of a paycheck, not just the back of a paycheck, somebody that's created jobs.
Yeah.
And, the person that I'll be replacing in the U.S. Senate, he's never worked in the private sector. And you can't expect somebody to understand how to handle a situation like that if you've never even worked in the private sector.
How many jobs have you created?
Oh, thousands. I don't know the exact number, but I know it's in the thousands. And, I'm so proud of my company today that I created with that $10,000. I mean, it's employing hundreds of people today. It still manages all of Walmart, all the big contracts that we set out. And today it's doing nearly $700 million in revenue. So, it was sold, it was taken private, but it's still a fantastic business, and I'm still so proud of what we built.
That's good. Those of you who watch me from Southeast Kentucky know that one of the problems we have, and of course, I'm from Perry County, my wife's from Knott County. My grandfather was a United mine worker, steward with the union, a union steward there, and worked 43 years in the coal mines there in Southeast Kentucky. But the problem we have today, since coal is gone and the EPA has destroyed our coal-fired plants and all the EPA regulations, we just don't have jobs. And one of the needs that we have in Southeast Kentucky is jobs. Nate, is there any hope that coal-fired plants could be rebuilt?
Absolutely.
In the mountains?
We have such a tradition here in Kentucky with coal. We know how to do it. It's in our blood. It's in our DNA. And one of the things that I talk a lot about, the next energy plant that gets built in Kentucky, it must be coal. Should be coal. It must be coal. Pastor, you think about utility bills right now. We got folks, particularly in the mountains in East Kentucky, they can't pay their power bill.
Oh.
First I hear I can't go to Kroger and buy my groceries.
Yeah.
But now it's I can't pay my light bill.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to have the leadership and the conviction to say, whatever gets built here next should be coal-fired.
Yeah.
We can put people back to work. We can bring down those utility rates. I mean, Pastor, right now we're getting natural gas from West Virginia.
Yeah.
And it's being pushed into Kentucky. We need to create our own energy sources and put our people back to work. And that's why I continue to talk about this everywhere I go, is that the next thing that gets built needs to be coal-fired.
Yeah. Those that know what you've said about being friends with J.D. Vance,
Yeah.
you've known him for how long?
Over a decade.
Okay, over
Yeah.
a decade.
Yeah.
My grandparents are from Breathitt County. That's where our vice president is from, Breathitt
Yeah.
County. And do you think that perhaps he would run and maybe be the next president of the United States? Do you think that your friendship with him, we could get him to help us get coal-fired plants built? And do you think he has a desire, an interest in doing that?
Well, certainly, I want to say this about my friend. I'm so proud of him. I'm proud of him. I'm proud for our country that we have somebody like Vice President Vance. I'm proud of where he comes from. He's one of us.
Mm-hmm.
And he's lived a tough life,
Yeah.
but he made it. He lived the dream. He lived the dream. And I think he's shown pathways for all Kentuckians, all folks of our region, that the dream is still there for the taking. I'm hopeful that, if we're fortunate enough to get in the United States Senate, that we can work together to help look at Eastern Kentucky, look at Appalachia, and figure out a way to get jobs and get opportunity back in the region and help our people.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place. I mean, it's as beautiful as the Smoky Mountains. I mean, it's a beautiful place, and it's sad that it seems like we're sitting on coal, we're sitting on wealth, and the EPA is. I mean, it's terrible. We're like the people of India that are hungry, worshiping cows. And somehow or another, we have to get some common sense. Let me go back to jobs. As you look at
Yeah.
the four regions of the state, what are ideas or what are hopes that people can look forward to say, if Nate Morris is elected to the Senate, he will help us get jobs in these four areas? What are those job ideas or opportunities that you could help bring?
Well, I think first it starts with having a leader that's created jobs and knows how to do it. You know, one of the things that was so shocking to me, Pastor, when I was a CEO and entrepreneur, and when I'd go on the Hill and I'd meet senators or members of Congress or governors, they didn't know anything about creating a business. And President Trump has shown us that what business people can do
Yeah.
if they have the opportunity and the platform. But I think first and foremost, we got to have the leadership to set the vision, to say, look at Kentucky, look at the product we have, our location, our people, our ability to manufacture, the traditions like coal that we have, building on those. And we have to double down on our strengths, which is we know how to make stuff here, like my family working in the auto plant, and we know how to transport goods, the logistic hub of the country. I mean, think about the presence that Amazon has here. Amazon's here for a reason.
Yeah.
We're the main artery of the United States.
Yeah.
So you can get just about anywhere in the country in about a day's drive. So our location, our geography is a great blessing that we have. And we need to maximize that. And we've got to have people that can articulate at the highest levels of leadership how to go out and sell Kentucky like a product and attract capital, be able to work on deals as they come up, like things like KFC. That should never happen in our backyard. And it doesn't matter if you're the governor or senator or state representative, whatever it is, you should be fighting to say, we got to get you to stay back here. We got to work out a situation. We got to work out a deal to keep you here right here in the Commonwealth.
Yeah. One of the things that has frustrated me about our state is we want grants or we want programs, we want money invested or even given to our state. I know that our state budget is overwhelmed by the amount of Medicaid that is the largest part of our state budget. You know, I really don't want a senator that can see how much money he can get from the government. I want a senator who can help our people work and earn our own money. We've created a welfare mentality we saw with the SNAP benefits when they ran out. We had
Yeah.
too many children that went hungry, and there are many people who would work. We've got to have somebody that'll fight for our jobs.
Well, look, I think about our people. You know, think about NAFTA. I had family members that lost their job because of NAFTA, and it was almost like we flipped a switch. And overnight, those jobs went to Mexico or went somewhere else. And then we had the opioids come in. Then we had China enter the WTO.
Yep.
Then we had another wipeout of our manufacturing base in our region, in our country. And I think about it first and foremost, it's not our people's fault.
No.
We haven't had leadership that has protected the American worker, thought of the American worker first. And I believe the elites have sold out our country so they could make a few more extra dollars on Wall Street. They could get a few more turns of their equity. And they made out like bandits on Wall Street for a few years, but we're all picking up the pieces and trying to figure out how to make it work. And I think that, again, I think it starts with leadership, but we've got so much to offer. And I'm so hopeful about our people and what we have to bring to the rest of the country and the rest of the world. You know, we're known all over the world because of KFC, because of our horses, because of the things we do so well here.
Yeah. Let me talk about education.
Yeah.
Education used to be education. We used to teach the 3 R's, as we called them. It seems like over the last 20 years, maybe more, that it's been more propaganda. It has been more the promoting of things like the transgender movement. I mean, we even have children in sports programs and teenagers that are forced to play sports, girls on boys on girls teams. Now, it's not going on in Kentucky, but all of these things are being told to our children. How can we improve education for the average child that they don't have the choice of going to a private school? They don't have a choice of going to a Christian school. We have to improve education. How can we do that? Do you agree with the president that says we need to start all over with education?
Well, first off, I'm so proud. I was educated in Kentucky public schools. They set me in motion to get to all these great institutions I went later in my life. And I had wonderful teachers. I had wonderful coaches. But Pastor, the education I got is not what they're teaching today. It's totally different.
I'm the same.
It's totally different. So I want to say that how much I appreciate my teachers because they gave me so many opportunities and really helped raise me in a lot of ways. But I think it's really simple. President Trump said, we got to blow up the Department of Education. And I think that was the right move. That was the right move 100% because education is a local issue. And I think second of all, we need to teach our students stuff that's going to help them become productive members of society. If it doesn't help you make a living or make you a better citizen, we shouldn't talk about it, shouldn't teach it. And that student is carrying with them tax dollars. Somebody paid for that student to be into the school system. They ought to be able to take that tax money where they see fit and have the school choice to do that. And I'm hopeful that the things that we can get done at the federal level will continue to encourage school choice because we got to get there. That's the way we create competition again in our system.
How do we get the vocational schools promoted and get our young men to understand that being an electrician is important? Being a plumber, being a carpenter, being a diesel mechanic, that's an important job, and you are somebody to do that. How do we get to more vocational training and away from this university training that is so far from what education has been in the past?
Yeah. Well, as somebody who made a living picking up garbage, I picked up a lot of garbage. This blue collar industry that a lot of people look down on, nobody wanted to do it. But I tell you, if you pay enough, people are willing to do it and people are motivated to do it. And what we see now is a tremendous demand in our economy for these jobs that have been overlooked by these academic elites. And we got to get back to saying, focus on making a living, focus on staying out of debt. Not everybody has to go to college. And I think getting the skills, even coming out of high school, to have a trade and to have a pathway to a trade, that's something we got to celebrate. And again, and Pastor, I think it's really clear. Any of these schools that try to indoctrinate, whether it be elementary all the way up to high school or even higher ed,
Yes.
they need to be defunded.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
In the Senate, we have the power of the purse and appropriations, and they need to be cut off if they start going down that path.
One thing I've never understood of the conservatives, and when I think of Republican, I used to think Republican conservative. That's not always true. Now I think Republican rhino, and then there are a few conservatives left, and we need more conservatives. I've always wondered, why do you fund the education on a higher level that produces the liberal or the enemy of who the Republican, who the conservative is supposed to be? And it sends a mixed signal. And Charlie Kirk said this best as he would go to the campuses of the universities around, and he just said, you're being defrauded. You're being cheated because, and I've always wondered, why do Republicans put so much money in higher education that produces the liberal against capitalism and against the history of our nation and everything that we are?
When I was thinking about, getting into the race, I had, Vice President called and said, hey, you should take a look at this thing. And Pastor, I found out my wife was expecting our first child. We've been married nearly 14 years.
Wow.
And I started thinking about it, and JD's like, you should talk to Charlie Kirk. And he's one of the people that I talked to about this race. And one of the things that he said in our first conversation, I'll never forget it. He said, Nate, you have to understand that the political realm today, it's about good versus evil. It's not about Republican versus Democrat anymore.
Right.
And it begins with this indoctrination that young people get on campus. They become radicalized against our country, against our values, against our Judeo-Christian founding. And they're taught this perverse view of history that makes no sense. And that's why Charlie fought so hard, as you know. And one of the things that astonishes people, Charlie Kirk didn't go to college. Yeah. And look how brilliant of a person he is. A once in a generation, once in 100-year, maybe 200-year talent and leader that educated himself. And, one of the other things I hear a lot too, Elon Musk was asked, how'd you learn about rockets? He said, I learned by watching YouTube. We live in a totally different world where everybody has access to education through the internet. And I'm convinced that a lot of these universities, their sole goal and their sole mission is to try to change the fabric of this country and try to set us back and try to destroy ourselves from within. And that's why we've got to fight so vigilantly against this woke nonsense.
Yes, yes. We're coming to the close of our time here, and I appreciate you answering all these questions and the tough ones. I want you to look into the camera and look into the homes and the families and faces of the people in Kentucky and tell them why they should vote for you, and not only vote for you, why should they get others to vote for you to become senator from the great state, the great Commonwealth of Kentucky?
Well, I think this is a historic moment for Kentucky. This seat is open for the first time in over 40 years. And we've seen our senior senator that has stabbed our president in the back, that has continued to sabotage his agenda. And folks, we've got to have something totally different. I'm proud I've never run for office before. I don't need the job. I don't need the money. I'm running to fight for Kentucky, to fight for this country. I really believe we're in a battle of good versus evil. And we've got to have people that are willing to stand strong and put it all on the line. I'm financing most of this race myself as a business guy, so I can say what I need to say. I've called for some really tough things to happen. I called for a full moratorium on any new immigration coming into our country until we deport every single illegal. We were invaded, and the liberal media will not say it, but we were invaded as a country, and we saw what happened over Thanksgiving when we let people in unvetted. And I've got people that are running against me in this race that called me a nativist because I want to deport every single illegal. And I have zero tolerance for any illegal person in this country. And these are the kind of values that have shaped me. These are the kind of values that I'm going to take to Washington. And President Trump has proven time and time again that business people, non-career politicians, they can get so much accomplished. And this is what our country must have. And lastly, I'll say, I don't want to be here, Pastor, for 40 years. I said, I'm going to serve 2 terms and be done and go back to my farm and go back to making a living. I think we need term limits in this country, that our founding fathers never intended for something like the United States Senate to be somebody's career. And I'm yet to see any politician, the longer they stay in Washington, the more virtuous they become. And I'm asking you this morning, come be part of this campaign. Come be part of this movement. Come and be part of this outsider disruptive change that we're going to bring to Kentucky. We're going to bring to Washington. I need your help. I need your support. Go to natemorris.com, sign up, come to one of our town halls, contribute to the campaign. We need you knocking doors, and we're going to be victorious on Election Day. And we're going to bring change for the first time in over 40 years and defeat one of the biggest machines that have ever existed in politics, the McConnell machine. We're going to defeat it once and for all come Election Day.
Nate, thank you for being with me today. I appreciate a politician, a businessman, a Christian man, being willing to sit down with a pastor. So many times over the years, I have talked to many politicians, and they enjoy talking to me in private quarters, but very few are willing to sit down in a public forum like this today. And I want to thank you. And I believe that with you have proven being in this public forum and not being ashamed to be identified with Christians, that you will be a great senator for Kentucky and for Christians in our state. I believe everything is lining up as I see Fox News reports, Breitbart, Donald Trump Jr., Steve Bannon, on and on, those that are supporting this campaign. I see you, Nate, on the Charlie Kirk podcast. I see them continue to promote you. I believe the next one that will come will be the endorsement of President Trump. Thank you so much for being with us today on the Jeff Fugate Podcast.